Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by BetterHelp.com and LittleShaman.org. That's me, the Little Shaman. Today I wanted to talk to you about something that isn't discussed enough regarding narcissistic relationships and narcissists in general, which is that narcissists are a distraction. Anyone who's ever dealt with a narcissist has felt that this was true at some point or on some level. You might not have realized how right you were. Narcissists are a powerful distraction in many ways. In some ways, we could even maybe say that their ability in this area is one of their major points of attraction, even if people don't realize that. The main state of most of these relationships is immersive, meaning that they are all encompassing, and when you are in one, usually you are in it. Whether it's with a parent or a sibling or a partner or a friend, these relationships can take over your whole life. At first, that might seem wonderful. The relationship is good, or it's on an upswing right now. Yes, it's taking up a lot of your time, maybe even all of your time, but that's not a problem right now. Yes, this person demands a lot of attention and requires a lot of management and propping up, but that's not so terrible, is it? Not when you consider how great you feel in return and how wonderful it all seems. All that stuff you were worried about or that bothered you in other areas of your life just doesn't seem to matter as much. It's not as important, or maybe you think it's gone altogether. And that feels great at first. This is where the danger is, because focusing on narcissists, or anyone else really, distracts us from things in our lives that we find hard to deal with or are afraid to face. Is really a perfect fit in this situation because pathologically narcissistic people require you to focus on them to the exclusion of all else. You really have no choice if you want to have any kind of relationship with a person who has this type of personality. They and their needs come first, always. They are not just the brightest star in the sky, they are the only star in the sky. After a while, it gets to the point where not only are you avoiding focusing on the things that you find painful or difficult to face, you're avoiding focusing on everything, including taking care of yourself in dealing with your own stuff. You're now doing it not because you're trying to avoid these things, but because you're trying to avoid punishment from the narcissist in your life for daring to take the focus off of them for any length of time. And of course, now there's a lot more of your own stuff that's hard to deal with. Worse, this is not a relationship where you are solely focused on the other person and they are solely focused on you, as you might have hoped or have been told that it would be. It's a relationship where everyone is focused on the narcissist and nobody focuses on you at all. You don't even exist. It is sadly ironic that many of the deeper things people are trying to avoid, such as the pain of being unseen and unheard, or the feeling of being unloved and unwanted, are directly triggered by these relationships. In trying to avoid these things, we often run straight into them without realizing it. A relationship that requires all of your focus is a great distraction, but it takes over your life until that's all there is left. Think about how it is when people have babies. All of the focus goes to the baby. You don't have time to even think about yourself or your own needs. You are way too busy taking care of the baby. This is why so many people must reevaluate and even get to know themselves again after their children leave home. They've spent so much time caring for their children that they've lost any real sense of who they are or how to take care of their own needs. Many times people have devoted no energy at all to even trying to understand themselves or their own motivations because they've been so focused on their family and their kids. When their children become adults, they may finally begin thinking about these things because someone else is no longer the primary focus. This is very similar to what happens in relationships of any kind with narcissists. In fact, it's almost exactly the same. Like a baby, this person demands all of your focus and all of your energy. There's nothing left for anyone or anything else, including yourself. At some point in the relationship or after it, you might realize you have totally lost touch with who you are or that you never really knew in the first place. The things you were avoiding or distracting yourself from are not gone. In fact, they may be worse than ever now, and even worse, relief from them may have become tied to the narcissist in your mind. This is why when you're engaged in something or doing something you enjoy, you probably don't worry about the narcissist that much. That comes when you're alone, or when you're bored, or when you're having some kind of negative emotional experience. We often think of this as the other things distracting us from thinking about the narcissist in our lives, but in reality, the narcissist in our lives is a distraction from negative emotions. If you explore your thoughts and your feelings in these situations, you may find that often an unrelated triggering event or negative feeling came first, and then you started thinking about the narcissist. This is very common because the relationship has become a coping mechanism in a manner of speaking, in that we might be unconsciously using it to feel better when we feel bad. Some of it is, of course, that we may genuinely miss them or be worried about them, but some of it's very likely that feeling better has become attached to this person in our minds. There is an addiction in these relationships, and any addiction is an attempt to self-regulate, a distraction from the deeper problem or the issue that makes us feel better or helps us to avoid things. This seems counterintuitive when we think about how destructive and painful these kinds of relationships are, but consider this. A person is addicted to heroin and spent some of their rent money on heroin. They are now extremely stressed out about their housing situation because this is the third time they've been short, and their landlord told them they better not be short or late again. Because using heroin is their coping mechanism, the stress and fear regarding their housing situation leads them to go buy more heroin. They are now even shorter on the rent than they were before, which stresses them out even more, and you see where this is going. These relationships are very similar. The thing that hurts you or causes all the problems is also the thing that makes you feel better. This is a vicious cycle that many people find very difficult to escape. When we are able to face the things inside that we're trying to avoid, we find that we don't need distractions anymore. A person who requires all of our focus and attention and/or who bombards us with all of theirs is not as attractive anymore. We're able to pause and see things as they really are, and we realize that there's no such thing as a good distraction in this context. Being distracted from our issues or problems feels better in the moment, but it has long-lasting and far-reaching consequences that may be far more damaging than facing and dealing with these things in the first place. Also remember, a lot of the things we're talking about here are things people don't realize are happening, and it can be difficult or even scary for people to have these things made conscious. Remember to give yourself grace. We can't know what we don't know. It isn't easy to face things that we find painful or frightening, and it isn't easy to try to learn who you are now and why you did or didn't do things while also trying to recover from a horrific entanglement. Give yourself some compassion and cut yourself some slack. You deserve it. I hope that clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. I take appointments online, over the phone, via text, via messenger, via email, and through Skype. So if you're interested in speaking with me one-on-one, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that. I teach workshops, seminars, and clinics throughout the year. So if you're interested in seeing what we're running this month, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that. And if you'd like to join our support group with access to weekly meetings, exclusive content, and much more, you can do that on littleshaman.org as well. You've been listening to the Meditation and More podcast brought to you by betterhelp.com and littleshaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you. Have a beautiful day.